What if I told you that every person you meet is already confessing their deepest secrets when and without saying a word? You think people are mysterious, hard to read, impossible to understand, but maybe you're just not looking in the right place. No one can truly hide what they most fear to show. In this chapter, you'll learn to see through the invisible mirror everyone carries, and perhaps realize you've been revealing yourself too. Picture this. You're in a room full of people all pretending, smiling at the right moments, nodding politely. But there's a tension underneath, a silent electricity that tells a story louder than words. Maybe you remember a moment when someone told you, "I'm fine," but their hands were trembling, or their eyes refused to meet yours. We are all experts at hiding. We learned Jung. Hide your pain so they won't reject you. Hide your real thoughts so you'll belong. But here's the secret Nietzsche understood. The more someone tries to hide, the more obvious their truth becomes, if you know where to look. If you've ever felt invisible in a crowd or like nobody really sees you, maybe you're just surrounded by people wearing the same mask. Nietzsche wrote, "Whoever fights monsters should see to it that in the process he does not become a monster." Most people spend their lives fighting inner monsters, shame, fear, the ache of not being enough. But what they don't realize is, those monsters bleed through the cracks, leaking into every word, every gesture, every fake laugh. Think about it. The one who boasts the loudest about their strength is usually the most terrified of weakness. The one who laughs at everyone else is running from their own pain. We all live in glass houses, hoping no one sees the cracks. But the cracks are the only real part of the house. Reading people isn't about Sherlock-level deduction. It's about noticing what is forbidden to be seen. The friend who always changes the subject when you mention love. The colleague who can't accept a compliment without deflecting it as a joke. The parent who never apologizes, but whose voice shakes in anger. These are not just habits. They are confessions. Here is the brutal truth. No mask is perfect. No silence is empty. Every human is leaking the very thing they hope to hide. Sometimes it's a tremor in the voice. Sometimes it's a pause too long before an answer. Sometimes it's the anger that flares up in the face of a gentle question. Nietzsche would say, "People are readable not because they want to be seen, but because they are desperate not to be discovered." You don't need to be a mind reader. You just need to be brave enough to see what's right in front of you. The invisible mirror is always reflecting. When someone judges you harshly, they are usually battling the same demon inside. When someone can't stop talking about their success, listen for the emptiness between their words. When someone pulls away from you without reason, it's not about you. It's about the wound they refuse to show. So ask yourself, what are you trying to hide right now? The invisible mirror reflects both ways. Learning to read others starts with the courage to read yourself. Look for the trembling hand, the eyes that look away, the laugh that covers the pain. Remember, no one can truly hide what they most fear to show. If you can see through the mask, yours and theirs, you are already halfway to understanding anyone. And if this truth shook something inside you, maybe you're ready to look into the next mirror, where the masks start to fall. Social masks, the characters we wear to survive, and how Nietzsche saw right through them. You think you know yourself, but how much of you is actually you? How many of your smiles are masks, worn so people don't see what's breaking inside? You don't read people by what they say, but by what they silence. In this chapter, we strip away the social characters and reveal what Nietzsche saw beneath the performance. Have you ever watched yourself in a social setting almost from the outside? You laugh at a joke you didn't find funny. You agree with something just to keep the peace. You find yourself nodding even when your soul is screaming no. Maybe, since childhood, you were told, don't be difficult. Don't be too much. Fit in. And so, piece by piece, you learn to become who the world wanted you to be. But deep down, there's a quiet grief, a mourning for the parts of yourself you had to bury just to belong. Nietzsche didn't believe in the authentic self as something pure and untouched. He believed we are mosaics, built from our traumas, our longings, and, above all, the masks we use to survive. We don't just wear masks to hide, we wear them to be loved, to avoid pain, to pass undetected through hostile territory. The mask of the strong one, always holding everything together so nobody sees your terror of falling apart. The mask of the joker, deflecting with laughter so no one notices your sadness. The mask of the pleaser, saying yes to everything so you're never left behind. These aren't just habits, they're shields. But Nietzsche warned, "He who despises himself still respects himself as one who despises." Translation: even when you hate the mask, you can't take it off. You're trapped in a character, afraid the real you will never be enough. And so you play the role, over and over, until you forget where the mask ends and you begin. Here's the devastating irony. The world falls in love with your masks, not your soul. You get praise for being easygoing, admired for being so strong. But inside, you're screaming for someone to see the pain behind your strength, the longing behind your laughter. Most of us die wearing masks we glued to our faces decades ago. Nietzsche saw through it. He saw that behind every mask is a wound. The friend who can't say no, childhood fear of abandonment, the lover who acts cold, a terrified child hiding their need for closeness, the parent who criticizes you, their own mirror reflecting the self-hate they never healed. The social mask is a costume you wear so you won't be left alone, but it guarantees loneliness anyway. So breathe. Who are you beneath the performance? Who would you be if you could drop the mask, even for 1 minute? Remember, you don't read people by what they say, but by what they silence. Maybe the people around you aren't cold or fake. Maybe they're just terrified wearing masks they forgot how to remove. And if you're exhausted from pretending, you're not alone. The first act of courage is to see the mask for what it is. A survival strategy, not your truth. If this chapter hurt, let it hurt. Sometimes pain is just the mask melting off. Anger, fear, and projection, the psychological theater we perform without noticing. Why do the people who hurt you seem to know exactly where your wounds are? Why does someone's anger feel like it's aimed at your deepest fears, not your actions? Someone's anger at you is almost always an unresolved war inside themselves. In this chapter, we step onto the stage of the mind, the place where our pain becomes a performance, and our accusations reveal far more about us than about the world. Think back to the last time someone lashed out at you. Unfairly, unexpectedly. Maybe it was a friend who exploded over something small, or a parent whose criticism seemed cruel and out of proportion. It hurts. But beneath the sting, there's a question we rarely ask. What were they really fighting? Nietzsche saw that most human conflict is not about truth, but about pain looking for somewhere to land. We become actors in each other's dramas, playing out scripts written by old wounds. You're not just reacting to the present, you're haunted by the past, and so is everyone you meet. This is the core of projection. We see in others the things we can't face in ourselves. Nietzsche, Jung, and every honest psychologist agrees. The qualities we attack in others are often our own shadows, denied and despised. The parent who shames your sensitivity? They once had to kill their own. The friend who mocks your ambition? They buried their dreams long ago. The partner who accuses you of being distant? Maybe it's their own fear of closeness speaking, not yours. Projection isn't just an unconscious habit. It's a survival mechanism. If I blame you for my anger, I don't have to look at my own rage. If I call you selfish, I don't have to face how much I want to be chosen. The theater of projection is a hall of mirrors. We keep smashing the glass, hoping to destroy the reflection, but we only end up bleeding. Here's the truth you can't escape. The emotion that overwhelms you, the accusation that repeats, the anger that burns, all of it is a desperate signal from inside. Nietzsche believed, "He who fights with monsters should look to it that he himself does not become a monster." When you point the finger, ask yourself, am I describing them, or am I confessing myself? Is my anger a shield, protecting a wound too raw to reveal? Is my fear about them or about my own lost innocence? Most of what hurts us from others is just the echo of their unfinished battles. Their war isn't yours, but it becomes your pain if you don't see through the performance. Every accusation is a coded plea. Help me see the part of myself I'm too afraid to face. But few have the courage. It's easier to blame, to rage, to project, than to turn inward and meet the monster with compassion. So, next time someone wounds you, pause. Ask yourself, what war are they fighting that has nothing to do with me? And next time you feel the urge to judge, to lash out, to blame, ask, what am I refusing to see in my own reflection? Remember, someone's anger at you is almost always an unresolved war inside themselves. And your own anger too is a teacher, not of who others are, but of what inside you still needs to heal. Nietzsche's challenge is brutal. Stop performing. Start seeing. You can only read others when you stop projecting your story onto their silence. And if this truth hurts, let it. Sometimes pain is the only way to wake up. The truth of the body, micro-expressions, silences, and what Nietzsche called honest lies. What if every lie you've ever heard was betrayed by the body first? What if you could hear the truth in someone's silence, the tremor in their voice, the look they try to hide? The body confesses what the mouth swears it doesn't feel. In this chapter, we learn to listen beyond words and discover why Nietzsche believed that the most honest confessions are the ones no one intends to make. Remember the last time you told someone you were fine while your whole body screamed the opposite? Maybe your hands were clenched, your stomach twisted in knots, your smile forced and hollow. We learn to lie with words before we even understand what truth means. But the body has its own language, a dialect older than speech, impossible to fully control. Nietzsche called this the honest lie, the performance everyone gives, even to themselves. And no matter how hard you try, your body will always betray the truth you're trying to bury. Science calls it micro-expressions, tiny flashes of real emotion, grief, fear, contempt, leaking out before the mask can harden. It's the way a person's eyes dart away when they talk about childhood, the way someone laughs a second too late, or smiles only with their mouth, never their eyes. It's the sigh at the end of a sentence, the foot tapping under the table, the sudden change in posture when a sensitive subject appears. Nietzsche believed that all our attempts to deceive, to put on a show, are ultimately doomed, because the body remains loyal to the truth. Even our silences speak. You see it in the friend who goes quiet when certain names are mentioned, in the partner whose arms stiffen at the hint of intimacy, in your own reflection, when you try to convince yourself you're over it, but your body aches in protest. The body is not neutral. It is a diary written in muscle tension and heartbeat and breath, a record of every story we tried to forget. Here's the harsh gift. You cannot lie completely, not to others, not to yourself. You can say, I'm not afraid, but your pulse gives you away. You can say, I've moved on, but your hands shake when the past is mentioned. You can say, I'm happy, but your eyes betray the sadness you won't name. Nietzsche's honest lie isn't hypocrisy, it's survival. We pretend so we won't be hurt, but the body keeps the score. This is why reading people deeply is not about analyzing every word. They can be rehearsed. It's about watching for the cracks, the micro-expression that flashes before the practiced smile, the silence that lasts half a second too long, the way someone's shoulders slump when no one is watching. And it's about having the courage to read your own body too. Where are you tense? Where do you ache? What does your body remember, even when your mind tries to forget? So ask yourself, what does your body know that your mind is trying to deny? Are you listening to the language beneath your words? The tremors, the sighs, the silences? Remember, the body confesses what the mouth swears it doesn't feel. If you want to read others, truly see them. Watch the dance between word and gesture, story and breath. And if you want to know yourself, stop rehearsing your answers. Listen to the truth beneath your own skin. Nietzsche believed that liberation begins with brutal honesty, not just in speech, but in the body's secret language. If this makes you uneasy, let it. Growth begins where the lie cracks and the body finally breathes. Seeing beyond the surface. How to see through attitudes and protect your own essence. What if you could see beyond every mask, every performance, every carefully crafted facade? What if you could protect yourself, not by shutting down, but by understanding what's really happening behind people's eyes? Reading others is, above all, decoding your own labyrinth. In this chapter, we leave the surface behind and learn to see the soul beneath the story. You've spent your life interpreting signals, words, gestures, silences, trying to make sense of what others want, what they fear, what they hide. Maybe you've been hurt by people who wore beautiful masks, or let down by those who never let you in. You might have built walls so high that even you can't climb them anymore. But Nietzsche, and every wise soul since, knew that to truly read others, you have to risk seeing yourself. It isn't about becoming a cold observer. It's about becoming radically honest, starting with your own blind spots. Here's a brutal truth. Most people are terrified of being truly seen, not just by others, but by themselves. That's why we judge so quickly, because it's easier than reflecting. That's why we get lost in the performance, because it's safer than vulnerability. But reading people is not about suspicion. It's about empathy laced with clarity. When someone is cruel, ask, what pain are they leaking? When someone withdraws, ask, what fear are they feeding? When someone shines too brightly, ask, what darkness are they hiding from themselves? But above all, turn those questions on yourself. What roles do you play to avoid your own wounds? What attitudes protect you from the terror of rejection or the ache of not being enough? Nietzsche wrote, "Become who you are, but how can you if you're still lost in the stories that others wrote for you?" The answer is paradoxical. You see others most clearly when you stop projecting your own wounds onto their shadows. You protect your essence not by armoring up, but by unmasking. When you recognize your own patterns, the urge to please, to perform, to control, you gain freedom from them. And with that freedom, you can see others without getting lost in their chaos. It's not about reading every micro-expression, every subtle cue, as if decoding a secret code. It's about cultivating stillness inside yourself, so you're not swept away by their storm. When you know your triggers, you stop taking others personally. When you own your pain, you stop letting others manipulate you through it. This is how you protect your essence, by knowing who you are and refusing to shrink or twist yourself for anyone's approval. So breathe, one last time. If you want to see others, look inside first. Ask, where am I performing? Where am I projecting? Where am I hiding from myself? Remember, reading others is, above all, decoding your own labyrinth. The more honest you are with yourself, the more clearly you see the world, not as a battlefield, but as a mirror. And if you've come this far, maybe you're ready to stop being just an actor in someone else's play. Maybe you're ready to write your own script. Nietzsche didn't want you to be strong. He wanted you to be true. If this chapter left you raw, let it. That rawness is your soul, finally breathing without a mask. If you want to keep going deeper, watch the next video. Why we sabotage ourselves, the shadow work nobody teaches.